Hello everyone, my name is Richie and welcome back to another video. Today join me for another comparison video and today we're looking at another timetable update. So today we're going to be taking a look at my favourite route, the Birmingham Cross City, because obviously I'm a Brummie and I'm quite biased. So this recently got a massive timetable update in a new timetable with the Class 170 pack, and I thought let's compare the original and the new one. Now, I've been quite looking forward to doing this because a lot of you will know how quiet Birmingham has been up until this new 170 pack. So I thought what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the main menu, have a look at the two timetables, and then we're going to do a bit of a run along probably the southern end of the route just to see how much busier it feels. What I'll also do is jump into some notable places along the route, i.e. Lichfield, Trent Valley and Birmingham New Street, to see how much busier it feels. Obviously with Trent Valley we've got the AI that we should see in the new timetable. So obviously, when we look at this, the newer timetable is going to be better, but it's just to kind of compare to see how much better it actually is. So with all that said and done, let's jump into the Birmingham Cross City timetable before versus after. Let's do it. So here we are, we're here in the Birmingham Cross City timetable, so let's have a little look at the differences, shall we? So we'll jump into the main one. As you can see, we've only got the 323 and the 66. Of course, there is a couple of layers as well from the Great Western Express, Northern Transpennine and Tees Valley line, but I don't actually have them installed on the PC. So if you've got all the stuff, you'll see a few more playable services. But yeah, jumping into the Class 323, you can see we've got 223 services and it does pretty much everything. It does all the 4-line runs, it does there's loads of different endpoints with this. Obviously you've got 4 Oaks to Bromsgrove and 4 Oaks to Redditch, and there's loads of different service patterns that you can do, but it pretty much does everything. Jumping into the new Class 170 timetable, as you can see we've got a lot more going on. Obviously got the 323 itself, as we've just looked at, which has actually a couple of less services on this. I think maybe because they've been refined or whatever else. Of course, you've got the star of the show, the Class 170, which does all sorts of things. It says 43 services there. It's actually more than that. I think it's closer to 100 because obviously you've got the West Midlands Railway and the cross country variants, which all do different services. I think each one of these got like 24 or like 30 services or something silly like that. So each one of these variants does different services, and I think they equate to around about 90 something, almost 100 services anyway. We've of course got the Class 66 doing the same things as it did in the original timetable, Pendolino doing a depot move, and then the Class 350 doing chase line services between Birmingham New Street and Aston. And of course you would see the Great Western Express HST and the TVL rail tours and stuff if you own them, but I just don't have them installed on the PC. But that's pretty much it between the two timetables. As you can see, for numbers wise, there's 248 on the original and there's 386 on the new one. So what's that? Around about 140 new services, something like that, which is pretty insane. So what I'll do next is I'll jump into some notable places along the route. So I'll jump into Birmingham New Street first and then into Lichfield, Trent Valley. And then we'll do a little run between Bromsgrove and Kings Norton, around 15 to 20 minutes, just to see how much busier it feels along the southern portion of the line. So let's jump into Birmingham New Street and see what it's like there. Right then, here we go. We're here at Birmingham New Street, which I must admit looks absolutely fantastic. It really does. Now, first thing I'm going to do is have a little look at the map, see if we've got anything going on. We've got something coming in over there, and that is pretty much it. That is the only train that is coming in at the minute. So yeah, we should see the 323 just appearing down there somewhere, because it's appearing onto platform 12, which is right down there. But yeah, I do really like this station. It looks absolutely beautiful. It looks absolutely spot on. Like everything from the light bacon and everything just looks really, really good. If we run across to a couple of platforms, let's see if there's anything coming in. So obviously, you know, there won't be too many differences from scenery and whatever else because, you know, the scenery is the exact same. Now, if we run down here, let's run down to platform 6. So there's some stuff on the PIS boards here. We're not going to see anything till 1943, but we have got a 323 rolling in there as well. So you obviously see the 323s coming in all the time. So, you know, from that perspective, that's quite realistic. It does look really good how the trains look underneath this sort of like station. It looks really, really good. I honestly love this route so much. Scenery wise, we won't see too many differences. Obviously, we've still got the nuclear benches. But yeah, that's pretty much everything here at Birmingham New Street. There's not really much going on, is there? So let's jump into the Class 170 version and see how much busier it feels. Right then, here we go. We're here in the Class 170 timetable, and straight away we've got a Pendolino on the same platform we were just at. So as you can see already, pretty much most of the platforms have got something in. We've got a 170 leaving over there as well. Look at that. So pretty much every platform, or most platforms, have got some PIS on them. Got a 323 coming in there as well. Let's have a little look at the map. So you can see, obviously, there's that 323 that we saw in the original one. There goes that 170 going off there. There's the Pendolino there. You'll probably see there you go to something coming in there. I think that might be a 350 of some kind. There'll probably be something coming in from this way soon as well. So straight away, a lot busier. There's a what looks to be a 350 or a 170 or something over there. Let's have a little look at it. Let's run down there. Right then, let's run on over here. What have we got going on down here then? So obviously we've got that Pendolino. There was something behind it, but I think it's blocking us. Oh, there we go. There goes that 323 that came in the original version. Lovely stuff. And then we've also got a 350, which I think would be doing a Wolverhampton service. So it looks absolutely incredible. Honestly, this is how I know Birmingham. Nice and busy, stuff going on all the time. And honestly, you could spend a lot of time here just waiting for stuff to go through. Because obviously this is a very big station. You see all sorts of stuff coming through Birmingham. But yeah, it looks absolutely incredible. It's just mad to think by adding a couple of trains, it looks so much busier and so much better. So that's the after section. So let's jump into Lichfield, Trent Valley. Right then, here we go. We're here at Lichfield, Trent Valley, and it's very, very quiet, isn't it? I know a lot of people will say, well, how come they couldn't have added the AI, you know, as soon as it came out? And that's just not how it works technically. Obviously, the Pendolinos, the 350s, they came out after this route came out, so it wouldn't have been built into the timetable to automatically include them. If we just run on down here, I'll have a little look at the PIS board, see if anything is actually coming through. I think you would see some freight on here at some point. Yeah, there's nothing coming through. You would see some freight come through here as well. I have seen that before, but you obviously just won't see the Pendolinos and whatever else that should be here in the before version. I tell you what, I absolutely love that little plaque over there. Looks fantastic. Looks spot on here at Lichfield. But yeah, it's obviously quiet, but interestingly, you do have passengers waiting to obviously board something, so something must come through at some point. But, you know, this route was built before the 350s and the 390s came out, so, you know, you can't build these routes and kind of predict what's going to come out. It's just not how it works technically, so they have to make a new timetable when something new comes out, because obviously they didn't exist in the game, so the game couldn't recognise them. So, obviously with the new timetable, we should be able to see them because it's essentially built from scratch. So, with that said, let's jump into the after version. And here we are in the after section. So when's the 323s actually planning to come through? I think they're due here any minute here in 5 minutes. So obviously the 323s come up here and terminate, and then they chill out here for about 5 minutes. But let's have a little look at the PIS down here. Let's see if it's any different. Right, the moment of truth. Is anything going to be calling here? Yes, there's crew services. Nice. So they're operated by the 350s, and that's due in any minute now. So we'll actually hang fire for that, because hopefully when that comes in, we'll see some other stuff in the meantime. Of course, yeah, the scenery is not too different here. Still got that wonderful looking plaque, but yeah, you will see 390s and whatever else flying through here. So we'll just wait a second and wait for something to come on through. Tell you what we'll do, we'll get a little better vantage point because we've got a minute to kill, I think. So that 350 should appear any second now, but we'll get a little vantage point from up here, from the upper platforms. Let's get over here. Let's have a little look from up here. This will be a good little vantage shot because we'll see the 350 coming, and hopefully if something overtakes it, we'll see it. Oh, there you go. I can hear the 350, and there it is. There you go. So that's approaching into the platform, and you can actually get on that. You can't really go anywhere, but you can actually board it if you really want to. Now, obviously, this part of the line isn't as busy as Birmingham New Street. You'd only see the 350s and the Pendolinos, and I think you'd see some freight as well. Now, obviously, a key thing to note is that the 350s only call at Lichfield, Trent Valley every hour. So, as that departs there, you wouldn't really see many things stopping here. You just see things flying through. Off it goes. Off goes the 350. We just need to see a Pendolino. Whoa, look at that. Look at that for timing. Ah, fantastic. Off it goes. So, obviously, you will see Pendolinos and 350s and all sorts of other stuff. So yeah, it's still a little bit quiet here at Lichfield, Trent Valley, but I think this is more prototypical now because this would have been built to be acting like an actual timetable. So obviously you'll see the Pendolinos, you'll see the 350s and all that sort of good stuff. So let's do a service on the southern end of the route and see what it's like before versus after when driving a 323. Right then, here we go. I've jumped into a class 323 here at Barnt Green because this is where it becomes 4-track up towards Kings Norton. So that's what we're going to do in this little before and after section. We're just going to see what it's like along the 4-track section of the Birmingham Cross City, because that would be where, if a 170 does appear, it might overtake us there. So I've travelled it up to Barnt Green, and then we'll carry on our merry way that way. So with that said, should we jump in and get ourselves ready to go? So we're pretty much set up and ready to go. I just need to make sure to lock the doors in around about 30 seconds. And then we're going to call at Longbridge, Norfield, and then going to end at Kings Norton in around 10 minutes time. So this is the before section. This is what the original timetable looks like. And then obviously we'll jump into the 170 timetable. Right, let's get the doors locked and let's get ready to go, shall we? So, full beans out of Barnt Green up towards Longbridge in 2.6 miles time. So again, I think along this section we may see like 1 or 2 class 323s, but we probably won't see too much else. Right then, here we go, up to 15 mile an hour as we approach onto the main line. As you can see, we've got a yellow coming up as well. So there's a lot of approach control in this section because obviously as you approach Longbridge, it kind of seems like it's been built to factor in the 170s because Obviously, if you've got a fast service approaching Longbridge, it needs to be directed to continue onto the fast lines, whereas if you're in a 323, it goes onto the slow lines, which is weird because it's an electric train, so you'd think realistically it should be the fast line. Right then, we're certainly going now. So we've got a couple of yellows coming up here, so we need to make sure to pay attention as we approach into Longbridge. But yeah, this is a really interesting part of the line because this is where it would be the busiest, because you'd see the 170s, you'd see things like freight and whatever else all in this section. So, you know, the rest of the line's all double track, and you'd obviously just see the 323s. You may see a lot of stuff coming out of Birmingham southbound, but you don't really see too much going on along the double track section. So this is where you're most likely to get overtaken by stuff. Of course, as we approach into Longbridge, you can see on the track monitor there that there's a red coming up. So that's the example of approach control. So obviously, as we get closer to that, it should, hopefully, all being well, go to green. But if you're in a 170, I think that does still go red, and it just waits for you to approach there. It's also interesting, if you've got the safety systems on, you get stung there a lot. But if you don't have them on, it clears it for you. So that's a little tip for you. Right then, gently does it into Longbridge. 0.6 miles to go. So hopefully that should change. I hope that red signal changes. It makes me nervous when I approach it because sometimes it doesn't want to change. So if we slow right down, there you go, changed last minute. Usually, when I first played this route right, usually it should change, and one time it didn't, and it made me panic. So I need to make sure every time just to slow down that little bit more. Of course, we've got to get down to 30 as we approach onto the passengers, but you can see here it just goes straight on down that way, and then it no longer becomes electrified, so that's where the 170s would go. Also, this is Longbridge sidings where you would operate some of the 323 services. As you can see there is a 323 over there, lovely stuff. So yeah, you can see that's going into the middle now where it's electrified, but after this station, there's no more wires. It's, you know, just completely diesel only, which is really interesting. Right, then let's slow down here for Longbridge. Full brakes here at Longbridge. Excellent, there we go. So this is Longbridge, let's unlock the doors. A really nice station this, and it's actually quite a good one to train spot at in the new timetable, because obviously standing here, you can see everything coming from either way. So if you stood here, you obviously got the 323 stopping, and then you'll see many a 170 fly through here. You know, it's nice and busy now in the new timetable. Right then, after around about a minute of waiting, we can get the doors locked and get ready to go. So what I find quite interesting is that some of these stations you're actually kept waiting for a couple of minutes, especially at Northfield. I wonder if we'll see it. But obviously, I've always thought they've done it to factor in what you would see, i.e. like the 170s or whatever else that would run on the route, because obviously you need to be kept at Northfield, because at King's Norton the two lines come together just before the station, so it makes sense for the train to be kept at Northfield. Right then, let's get going towards Northfield. So full beans, and let's do a little departure shot as it goes. So off we go, couple of tones. Nice, off towards Northfield in a mile's time, just down there. Let's go. The 323 sounds absolutely wonderful, but then again, the 170s I think are sounding much better because it's diesely, and I like diesely stuff. Off it goes down that way. So yeah, obviously a key thing to note with the southern end of the line is only seeing 323s. In some cases you may see a rail tour, in some cases you may even see an RHTT of some kind, but in the new timetable hopefully you'll see a 170 or two overtake us. Right then, we're approaching quickly into Northfield, so let's get some brakes in just as we approach the station. So is there anything here? Is there any 323s here? I don't think so. I think we'll probably only see one other 323 because technically speaking, as you're going northbound and the 323s are going southbound, you'd see them every like 5 or 6 minutes or something as you're doing a run. So if you do like a singular run along the line, you'll see a lot of 323s. It is quite a busy route, and it's actually prototypical because you would see 6 trains per hour with the 323s. Right, let's slow down here at Northfield. We've come into this station a little bit too hot, so let's slow right down, please. Slow right down. There you go. Some good brakes on the 323. Unlock the doors. Excellent stuff. There we go, got a 323 approaching in the background there. So here's another example of being kept at Northfield for a couple of minutes. As you can see, we're waiting here till 54. I've always thought this was been put in place because obviously the 170s and whatever else would overtake us here before King's Norton, so it kind of makes sense. So that's one thing I want to test in the after section if we do get overtaken by a 170, because it will maybe prove my theory correct, because I've always thought, well, have they built the timetable and simulated it to factor in the 170s? Because like I say, you would realistically see them, and they would realistically get priority over the 323s in this section, because obviously because they're fast straight through from Bromsgrove, especially the cross-country ones, they just go straight through up towards university, and obviously these things wouldn't be holding them up for the rest of the way. But yeah, obviously we've got the 323, that's departing over there. That's going to wherever it's going, I can't quite tell. It looks like it says Bromsgrove on it. So that's going down the Licky incline. And then obviously we can get off in a couple of minutes. So hopefully we'll see one more 323. Because we've got to wait a few minutes, and you normally see them every 6 minutes or so. I mean, we've seen 2 so far, so they're quite regular. Anyway, should we get the doors locked? I think we should, because we've got 10 seconds to go. So let's get the doors locked and get ready to go once more towards Kings Norton, which is another 1.5 miles or something away. So let's get the doors locked and let's go, shall we? Full beans and a couple more tones once more. Nice. Right, Kings Norton in 1.4 miles time. Off we go. 2 minutes to get there. Can we do it? No problem. So yeah, the key things to take away from this timetable is, you just see the 323s, because at this point that was all that was there. But there is a few cases in the original timetable where if you've got the Great Western HST, the TVL 37 and things like that, you would see them overtake you. So there is cases, if you pick the right service, you can be overtaken by something on the fast lines, which is quite cool. Right then, we're just approaching into Kings Norton. As you can see, we've got the RHTT depot on the right hand side there. I wonder if that'll be any busier in the after section. We'll keep an eye out for that. But let's get slowed down for Kings Norton. As you can see, the actual bit where it combines, where the two lines come together, is just there where the 40 board is. So that's where obviously would be kept at Northfield, because a 170 would be flying past, or I think you'd even see things like Voyagers if we had them in the game. They'd fly along this part of the route as well. So obviously you kept there for all the faster stuff to go past. And here we go. Here is Kings Norton. So let's get some brakes in for this station. Just gently does it. The last 2 stations I came into rather quickly, so this one we're doing a bit more gradually, which is good. Right, just a gentle stop into Kings Norton, right to the end of the platform. Keep going. I love the station modelling, all like the canopies and stuff, and this central sort of island platform as well is really well modelled, because obviously you can't actually get onto this in real life anymore. Right, let's slow down there. Full brakes. That's a good stop. I'm happy with that stop. Unlock the doors. Excellent stuff. But yeah, there's nothing else to see really here. There's no other 323s, but you probably would see one if you carried on up towards Bourneville. You'd probably see a couple more as you approach into Birmingham New Street. So if you kept going, you'd just see more of the 323s, which I don't think is a bad thing, to be honest. But anyway, that's a little look at the before section of the timetable. So let's jump into the after version in the Class 170 timetable and see whether it's busier or not. Right then, here we go. I'm back in the Class 323 here at Barnt Green, and this is the after version of the timetable. And just to prove it, I have just seen a Class 170 go southbound towards Bromsgrove, wherever it's gone. I did just see it. There it is. Is that it? There's something I've just seen anyway. I've just seen another 170 go through, so already seen a few differences already. So let's once again get ourselves ready to go, so we can go any second now. So let's have a little fly around here. Let's have a look if there's anything going to be coming through, because you would see some 170 services actually calling at Barnt Green. Let's have a little look. No, there's no 170 services showing up there. What about this side? Is anything coming this way? No. So you would realistically see just a couple of services actually calling at this station. I have done a couple where they've surprisingly stopped here, so keep an eye out for that in the timetable. Anyway, let's get the doors locked and get ready to go. Right, now let's go towards Longbridge. Full beans up to 15 mile an hour. So this is the exact same service as I've just done. Let's turn the GSMR back on again, and you can see it'll be 2U13, I think it was, or something like that. There you go, 2U13. So the exact same service. So obviously this is how we're going to compare it, just to see if there's anything new we see, and hopefully it'll be completely different. Right then, approaching onto the main line, let's get going. Let's full beans it up to 90 mile an hour as we approach into Longbridge. So I wonder if the things like the approach control are different, because obviously that's usually red until we literally are there. So I wonder, because there might be a 170 further up the line, so we'll have to wait for it. I don't know. Obviously, because that's got some speed by now, it will probably not hold us up too much if there is one ahead of us. Oh, look at this, straight away there's a 170 there, a cross-country one. Look at that, that's fantastic. So straight away I've seen a difference. Really, really nice. I think we did see a 323 as we left Barnt Green, so we may see another one of them any minute now as well. So there you go, straight away one difference. Yeah, you can see on the track monitor there it's still a red, so it's still a bit of approach control, so we can speed up again, because that should change. But that's cool. Cool that we've seen a 170 already. In fact, I've technically seen 2, because just before recording I did see one going southbound, a West Midland one, so that's really interesting. So there's already 2 170s I've seen there. Right, let's get some brakes in for Longbridge, because we need to make sure that we don't spad at this red signal. I think it's approach control, same as the original timetable, but you can't trust it. Never trust a red. Is it going to change? I don't know, you know. I don't know. Hopefully it does. Let's slow down a little bit more. Watch, we'll slow right down. You know, like when you approach traffic lights and they go red, and you just have to, as soon as you stop, they'll go green. It'll be the same case with this. Oh, I don't think this is going to change, you know. Is it going to change? Ah, there you go. See, last second. But, interestingly, it's a yellow signal this time. The last time it was a straight green. So, that's quite interesting. That's a little bit different. Let's also get down to 35. So, I'm pretty sure it was still all greens. So, that's quite interesting. Maybe because like the 170s have been worked into the timetable, as we've still got that 323 down there. I wonder because the new units have been worked into the timetable, they've actually delayed some of the 323 services and they've not got as much free reign as they originally did. So maybe we're catching up to a 323 up ahead. Very interesting. So that's a bit of a difference there as well. Anyway, let's get some brakes in here for Longbridge. Let's slow right down. Again, 4 brakes into this station. Lovely jubbly. So let's stop there. Nice. So interestingly, we've seen a couple of differences already. That's quite cool actually. I didn't even think there'd be silly little things like signals and stuff. I'm pretty sure it was all greens after this station anyway, so that's really interesting. Of course, we've still got another couple of minutes to wait before we can set off because we're kept here for something. Obviously, there'll probably be a 170 or something coming. I really hope there is, just to prove my point. Right, is anything coming? Oh, look at that. There we go. A 170 going past. So, it proves my point. So, maybe we're being kept at these stations because of the 170s. That's interesting. Maybe my point has been proven there. So we've already seen 2 170s. Awesome. I wonder if we'll see any more because we've still got a few minutes to wait at Norfield. So anyway, with that excitement aside, let's get the doors locked and ready to go. There you go. I'm actually really impressed with how many differences we've seen already. Right, then let's go to Norfield. Let's see if we see anything else along the line. I mean, we've already seen a West Mids one going southbound, so we probably won't see another one of them. We might not even see another cross-country one. I mean, hopefully we do. Hopefully we see something else, but that's still quite interesting. Yeah, I forgot to mention this in the before section, but you can see here, the electric lines aren't in the centre. They're just on the left and the far lines, let's say, the slow lines. So that's quite interesting. Again, oh, interestingly, we've got a red after Norfield as well. That's probably because of that 170. So, again, the signals have been changed to obviously factor in the 170s because there's something now there that exists, so it's stopping us from carrying on. Anyway, we need to slow down for Norfield because we're going way too quick. Right, slow right down. Slow right down. What I find quite interesting is that 170 would have long gone by now. So are we being kept for something else? Is this approach control again? I've never seen approach control outside of Norfield. This is really interesting. Let's see if it changes once we've stopped. Right, let's slow down for Norfield. A little bit of an overshoot, but it's okay. Let's stop there and let's see if it changes, because I would imagine it would. Hopefully, anyway. Yeah, there you go, it changes. Interesting, so that's approach control, I think. Or an example of it, anyway. There you go, got the 323 coming in there, so that's not changed all too much. So obviously the 323 services aren't actually impacted as much as I thought, because, you know, they're on a separate line at this point. So it's quite interesting, because that's now gone yellow. I would imagine there isn't any other 170s coming. What I do find quite interesting is why we're being kept at Norfield for so long, because obviously our signal's gone green now and the fast lines are actually got a red signal, so technically speaking, like if there was anything coming then it wouldn't have priority anymore. That's really interesting. I'm not too sure. Hold on. Oh, whoa, there's a cross country one. I weren't expecting that, so that's going to stop now. That's interesting. So again, that further proves my point that we're waiting here because of the 170s. You know, because we've just seen 2 go through there. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so that's just gone straight through. So, yes, we are actually kept at Norfield because something comes through. There you go. My point has been proven. I'm well impressed with that. So all this time we've been kept at these stations, and that is exactly why, to let the 170s go through. That makes a lot more sense now. I always wondered why we kept at Norfield for so long, but that makes sense because you would get the 170s so close apart. What I find quite interesting as well is, like, we've just seen a West Mids one and a cross country one like 10 minutes or like 5 minutes apart. So I think the services are like a few minutes apart going southbound or northbound or whatever. So they're kind of like, they're bunched up. So they're not spread out as much as I thought they were. Right then, let's get going towards Kings Norton. So I don't imagine we'll see any other 170s now. I think we've seen all we have to see. Because obviously they're every half an hour are the 170 services for both the West Mids and the cross country ones. So because we've already seen 2 go southbound and 2 go northbound, I don't imagine we'll see anything else. But we've seen a total of 4 170s. Oh, hold on a minute. That cross-country service is waiting for us. That's interesting. Okay, why is that waiting for us? I weren't expecting that. So obviously we've got to overtake this now, and this has got to wait for us. That's really interesting. I'm not too sure why that's happened, but we've got priority. Okay, that's interesting. So it overtakes us, but then it can't keep going. But then again, there is a West Mids one just up the line, so yeah, obviously it can't go much further because it gets stuck outside of university, so it needs to kind of let us in. That makes sense, because there is a few services where you have to wait a few more minutes. Anyway, here is King's Norton, so let's get slowed down here, and I'll give you my final thoughts. I'm actually really impressed with the differences there. There's quite a lot, and obviously after this station as well, again, it's all yellows, so maybe the other 170 that's further along the line is, you know, kind of stopping things from progressing because it stops at university. Really interesting. So there we go, that was a little look at the after section of the timetable, and I'm actually quite impressed with that. There's quite a few differences that I've spotted there. Obviously the 170s now really bulk up the route. Obviously we've seen, what, 4 services now, plus obviously the 323s mixed in, so it just feels a lot busier now. Hopefully, you know, if you run this during other parts of the day, you'd see freight, you'd see the rail tours, you could see loads of stuff along this 4-track section. And I mean, we're only scratching the surface here, because obviously if we carried on going towards Birmingham New Street, we'd probably see another few 170s as we go along the line, because it takes around 35-40 minutes to get between Bromsgrove and Birmingham New Street with a 323, so you'd probably see a lot of stuff overtaking or going past you the other way. But obviously that's just a little look around 2 or 3 stations along the route, so it's much busier. But I'm interested to know if there's any differences you've spotted, because obviously I've only looked at it a little bit, so if there's any major differences you've seen, like maybe you've been overtaken by a rail tour than a 170 or whatever else, let me know in the comments what differences you've spotted and whether you think the timetable is now much more improved. I certainly think it is. But anyway, now that we've looked at both timetables and now that we're holding up a cross-country 170 just outside of King's Norton, I'm going to leave that video there. So thank you all for watching this video. I've been Richie and I'll hopefully see you all next time. Bye bye.